Now we're back with black cylinders, okay? Remember our combos, we talked about it earlier. For the white set, it was 135. For the gray set, it was 357. Now we're going to be doing black, which will be 759, but it does not mean you exclude out the 1 and the 3. Now we're going to use all the colors together to create the best possible blend we can to make this a three-dimensional object. Okay, so let's start. At the top, remember we talked about the combo is 5, 7, 9. So I'm going to use a C5 at the very top here, okay? So I'm going to mark that. That's going to be a C5. Now remember we talked about that core shadow here. That's the darkest part of the object, that core shadow. And then this is going to be the brightest part of the object. Okay, so this is going to be a 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. And then here it's going to be 7, 5, 3, 1. White. And then it'll be 7, 5, 3, and 1. Okay, so this is how we're going to break down our combination here. Okay, so let's start with the top. We're going to start with the C5 first. Remember how we like to do the quick outline, just so we have a boundary for the C5. Okay, and remember I told you, we want the broad stroke because it covers the most area the fastest. You know, stripes make you look skinny, so let's go ahead and do the vertical stripes. Okay, that's a C5. Now we're going to start with that C9 in the core shadow. Be careful. Even though you have more colors to play with, you have the same amount of space as the first two objects that we did, which is the white and the gray one. So here I got to be careful. If I lay a 9 down, I got to be sure that I have enough space to cover all the different colors that we're going to use. So there's C9. Now we're going to do C5. Sorry, this is going to be C7. And C7 is going to go into C5. I just got to get a little bit of every color in there first before I start the blending. Okay, so here we go. That's C5. C5 is going to go into C3. Into C1. Okay. Now, if you don't like the strokey lines that you have, we can always go back and just do a little bit of blending over it. See how that helps? And remember, we're doing fast marker rendering, so not everything has to be perfectly blended. It's just for fast indication. Okay, so let's go to the other side. And our wraparound side will start with a C7. Okay, I just want to hold that edge. That's C7. And then I'm going to go 5, 3, and 1. And then try to leave that little white area white. Okay, now we're going to wrap it from 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. C7. Try to transition that into a C5, into a C3. into a C1. Now I have all these colors to play with. I'm going to try to do a little bit more blending here. So I'm going to start with that 9 and just lay it down. Okay, that 9's pretty dark. Into a C7. Remember, this is a dark object. So it's hard to say exactly how dark the object is, but it's dark enough. See, it's getting pretty dark on that side. Okay, so let's do the wraparound side again. Let's go back for our second pass on the wraparound side. Remember, C7 is holding the edge. Once I get that part a little bit wet, we're going to drag it over to C5. And then C5 will drag to C3. And C3 will drag to C1. I'm going to try to leave that little slit for a white hot streak. C7. C5. C3 into C1. And we're going to try to leave that little bit of a white streak behind. See, through this method, we have a lot of indication here that just shows that there is a transition of color. And it's okay to use the light colors over the dark colors. It's not going to affect it. Okay, so now we got that shiny black. Remember our sweep, okay, that we're going to do coming around the cylinder. What color are we going to use? Remember, we talked about the middle value. So because this is 5, 7, 9, our middle value here is 7. So I'm going to use a C7 to do the sweep. Remember, on the light side, 20% down. Sweep it, come back, reset, same spot. Sweep it again. And that gives it that kind of a shiny, glistening, coming around the mountain feeling. Okay, so let's go ahead and touch it up. Remember, our only real true black line is where? At the bottom of the object. Okay, this is that little gap that's showing where the cylinder is touching the floor, touching the table. And there's a little bit of a shadow underneath there. Okay, we do the upper half. We're just going to indicate a little bit. We're going to sweep it. Come back around this way. Touch it up. And our favorite part, the escalator. Remember the escalator? On the shadow side, it's coming up, indication, and then coming down. And then on this side, it's coming down, indication, then it's coming up. Okay, we're almost done here. All we need to do is add our shadow. Remember, 975 divided into thirds. Remember, do not cheat the shadow. It must meet that core shadow. I don't care how slim of a line it is. It's gonna meet the core shadow, okay? Remember, 975 into thirds. That's the 9. It's going to be the 7. And we're going to round it out with the 5. Remember, the lighter colors won't really hurt the darker colors. Okay? So what we're going to do is, notice that we're going to get it wet again. That's the C7 I'm using now to get it wet. Then I'm going to use the C5 to just drag it out a little bit and do a quick blend. Okay. And there you have it. We have now completed the black cylinder.